This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome, everybody, and I want to say especially welcome to all the Jeffrey Epsteins that are listening out there in the New York tri-state area. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein is quite the common name, you know, like John Smith, not Joe Concha. We're not very common as far as the Conchas are concerned here in America, certainly over in San Sebastian, Spain, right near the French border. We're common there. But, you know, John Smith or Daniel Jones, Mike Jones, a lot of Joneses, right? Jeffrey Epstein, pretty common name. Yet here we had Jasmine Crockett, the face of the Democratic Party, the darling of CNN and MSNBC. She is like the Michael Avenatti of her day. She's on almost every hour, it feels like, more than the people they actually pay to be on, it seems. Well, sure enough, she went to the floor of Congress to say that she found evidence in the Epstein files that says that, wow, Lee Zeldin, the former congressman of New York, ran for governor, almost won, now is the EPA commissioner. Wow, he took money from Jeffrey Epstein. The one problem is that it came from Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, a guy who has nothing to do with, you know, pedophilia, nothing to do with being a monster. And she just put it out there anyway, because I guess her team Googled Jeffrey Epstein and Zeldin and came up with some sort of donation, then automatically assumed that, well, that has to be the Jeffrey Epstein. Nope, not quite. So anyway, here is now Crockett on CNN talking about how, well, she really didn't mean to mislead anybody when she did. This is cut 10, go.
I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein, so at least I wasn't trying to mislead people.
He admitted to it. He admitted getting money from Jeffrey Epstein. Not the Jeffrey Epstein, but another Jeffrey Epstein. Therefore, I guess that makes him guilty by innuendo. And that's what this whole thing is about, people. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. If Donald Trump did anything in terms of pedophilia or really bad things as far as Epstein Island, when he ran for president in 2016 against Hillary Clinton and 2020 against Joe Biden and 2024 against Kamala Harris, Democrats who weaponize everything when it comes to the justice system and leak everything if they think it will hurt a political opponent would have put this out here by now on several occasions, and they haven't done it. So there's no there. It's one big nothing burger. But there's Stacey Plaskett, who kind of is a congresswoman, I guess. She represents the U.S. Virgin Islands, which means she doesn't have a vote in Congress, but she represents them as a delegate, I guess. And during a 2019 hearing about Jeffrey Epstein, she was attempting to grill Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's fixer, and was texting literally with Epstein back and forth. He's complimenting her clothes, said she did great. She's like, oh, thanks, really appreciate it. Boy, they seem friendly. And oh, by the way, Epstein donated to her campaign and she accepted the money. So here's the thing. Boy, when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and Stacey Plaskett, I guess it's okay to text with a convicted sex offender, and that's what Jeffrey Epstein was at the time in 2019, as long as you could try to get some information on Donald Trump to make him look bad. So Crockett, again, our favorite person on this show by far. I want to make her a co-host if I absolutely can. She then goes on CNN again, because she's on every hour, to defend Plaskett on her text. This is cut 8, go.
Do you think that was inappropriate? I mean, would you text with someone who is a registered sex offender
listen,
about what you should ask?
I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong.
No, it's wrong. It's like, are you against cancer? Yep, I'm against cancer. Are you against Joel Rifkin, the serial killer? Or name your serial killer. I cannot get my head around the fact that I'm not going to say this is right or wrong. She is a cartoon character. She is Eric Swalwell without a beard. And if she runs for Senate in Texas, she will lose by, 13, 14 points easily. And I'm being generous with that. But again, CNN, MSNBC, all of these outlets will continue to book her ad nauseum because they think that because she says provocative, albeit stupid and dishonest things, that somehow is good for ratings. And that's why those two networks have more employees than they have viewers at this point. I am Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers. I'm sorry. I am Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Back with more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So when I saw this story break, I'm thinking, wow, I didn't see the byline. The byline is the author. And I'm like, this got to be Miranda Devine because she breaks stories. She gets the scoop. She has the right sources. And here we are, 16 months after President Trump, by a centimeter, was nearly assassinated live on national television. And Miranda Devine and I were about to go on the big weekend show on Fox. Miranda was back in makeup. I was in the green room. And when you heard the pop, 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 and you saw the president go down, and he's down there for a good 45, 60 seconds. You don't know whether he's dead. It looked like he grabbed his ear like he was stung by something. Then he goes down. You just don't know what's happening. Well, we never really learned anything about Thomas Crooks, who is now dead. He was shot right after he tried to shoot President Trump. His body was cremated, almost like Osama bin Laden style. Like, okay, get her in a body. It's done. And then our media didn't really pursue the story all that much of the first president, in this case, former president, to be shot since Ronald Reagan in 1981. And you're thinking like, boy, there should be a lot more curiosity around this story. Like, who was this kid? Was he working with anybody? Did he have an ideology that may have driven him to this? And Miranda exposed it all in the New York Post this week, the exclusive of the year, I would say. So, Miranda, thanks for joining us. And I'm not going to ask you to reveal your sources, but you pursued this when so many other journalists would not. And how did you get to this point where you found out what you did?
Thanks, Joe. Look, it was really just fortuitous. It was just a long-term source contacted me and said that one of his clients had done all this research and had done it themselves sort of in an amateur way. He's a real patriot, loves President Trump, thought that the official story didn't add up, is very proficient with digital stuff, and managed to, just using some very simple tools, managed to dig up this Thomas Crooks, the 20-year-old would-be assassin, dig up his digital footprint. And he found 17 different platforms that Crooks had accounts on. And he, from that, managed to sort of pull together a whole lot of comments that Crooks made that give us much more visibility into his motivation, his trajectory to becoming an assassin. And, there are some curious elements in here. One of them, and I don't want to exaggerate it, is a slight similarity to Tyler Robinson, the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin, and that is that some connection to this sort of furry community. Thomas Crooks had an account on a very on a bizarre sort of site called Deviant Art, which is apparently the biggest online hub for furries. And furry, of course, is this sexual fetish, mostly sexual, where people dress up as animals, and they enjoy cartoon animal characters having sex or, nude, or, it's just humanized cartoon stuff. It's weird. But Crooks was on that site, and he described himself as they, them, because remember, Tyler Robinson's live-in lover was a transgender or transitioning furry.
Yep.
So that's a slight link. And there are other curious things, such as that Crooks was very rabidly pro-Trump through all this period when he was like 15, 16, 17. And then in January 2020, he does a complete 180 and becomes very anti-Trump.
And the methods you used, and this is according to the New York Post editorial board, the methods of divine source used started with Crook's phone number to track down his accounts on YouTube, Snapchat, Venmo, Zelle, GroupMe, Discord, Google Play, Quizlet, which I haven't heard of before, chess.com. We could go down the list. But then the editorial board asked, how could the feds miss the YouTube account literally with Tom Crooks 2178, which showed to other users as Tom Crooks, right? So if you're the FBI and you're like, wow, let's find a digital footprint, I think you put in Thomas Crooks or Tom Crooks, but of course, they somehow missed this. This is unbelievable to me. And also the Secret Service for allowing, I swear I cannot get my head over this or around this, that from 400 feet away, Thomas Crooks, who's 20 years old, outflanks the entire Secret Service and local law enforcement, is able to hide a high-powered rifle next to the building. No one discovers it. He climbs up that building, the one line of sight that is to that stage. And then when everybody knew that there was a threat out there, certainly the FBI did, I'm sorry, not the FBI, but at least the Secret Service, they still sent Trump on that stage anyway. That's the one thing that really gets in my craw, that if you know there's a threat out there and it hasn't been contained yet, why would they send the president out onto the stage? So if you want to unpack all of this, go right ahead, Miranda. The floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it is inconceivable that the FBI had not been aware of Thomas Crook's online footprint. And in fact, when the former Deputy Director, Paul Abate, testified to Congress just 2 weeks after Butler last year, he mentioned an account that they had found with over 700 comments from Crooks, and I assume that's the same as the YouTube one because it's the only one that was so prolific. And he said, though, Paul Abate sort of lied by omission, because he mentioned that the first part of Crooks' trajectory up until January 2020, when he was pro-Trump, he was also anti-Semitic and very anti-Democrat. Murder the Democrats was one of his comments. He constantly threatening Ilhan Omar and AOC and the squad. But Paul Abate never mentioned that this Crooks flipped and became anti-Trump in January 2020. He gave us half the story. Why was that? Why has the FBI never come clean and given us a proper profile of Thomas Crooks? If, as they've told us, he acted alone, this is what Kash Patel said last week in a tweet, that he acted alone, basically shut up, go away, stop asking questions. And it's not just journalists asking questions. It's also members of Congress. Ron Johnson is one, but there are others as well who are very upset about the fact that they've been what they call stonewalled by the FBI, both during the Biden administration when we expect it, but also under the Trump administration. This investigation needs to go ahead, and Ron Johnson, for one, his job is oversight. He's pursued this. He was upset that he was forced to actually issue a subpoena to Kash Patel in July on the 12-month anniversary. As for the Secret Service, their after-action report is classified. I think it behooves members of Congress who have access from Homeland Security or intelligence communities to actually look at that and tell the American people what was going on. We still don't really understand why the Secret Service was so incredibly incompetent. Was it incompetence or was it deliberate? Was it just making sure that Donald Trump had the absolute, F team, the worst team possible? So just in case something happened, sorry, because obviously Joe Biden and the Democrats did not want Donald Trump to survive and win that election.
Well, let me ask you this, Miranda, and we're talking to Miranda Devine, New York Post, great scoop this week, one of the best scoops of the year, if not the best. That's the thing about what you were just describing, as far as Joe Biden and Jill Biden specifically. She was in Pittsburgh that day, I believe, or somewhere nearby, where she got the A team that you just described. And Trump was left with other, assets. Now, he has the people that were protecting him within the Secret Service. I've met them. I was on the Trump plane. They're always the same people, but they're the ones on the stage, right? They're not the ones running the perimeter and so on. So all that said, are you amazed that no one was fired from the Secret Service? I mean, the head of the Secret Service resigned in shame, basically. But we haven't seen any accountability around this. I mean, why do you think that is?
Yeah, the two top people were ousted or resigned. But yeah, I agree. I don't know. I honestly don't know. There are so many mysteries in this case on both the FBI and the Secret Service. I don't believe it's a matter of, evidence is falling between the cracks between the two agencies. Both are sort of trying to offload blame onto the other. Whatever is going on, they have not been transparent with the American people. And the reason that matters, and I don't think the leaders of those organizations realize this, the reason it matters so much is because where there is a vacuum with a huge mystery, crazy conspiracy theories creep in. We've seen that with Charlie Kirk. It is so damaging. It sends people cuckoo. They really do go psycho with these ideas. So, if there is just the evidence that is able to be given, I do not understand why we were not allowed to know about Crooks's online history. He's dead. It doesn't hurt any trials. What are they hiding and why are they hiding it? And, they keep telling us that, the FBI had and the Secret Service, we had no connection with Crooks and we didn't know about him before Butler. That is really hard to believe. And FBI people have told me, off the record, agents, but also former agents have said there is no way that this kid with his voluminous, threatening rhetoric online over many years did not come to the attention of the authorities. And honestly, if he didn't, which is very hard to believe, he should have, and that's another problem.
Oh, indeed it is. And also at Trump International, where I've also been, I did a speech there not too long ago. I walked to where the sixth hole was and outside the perimeter. And it's just amazing that no one walked the perimeter. And Ryan Ruth, that assassin, was able to sit there in a sniper's nest for more than 12 hours. And not one Secret Service agent decides to walk the perimeter of the most targeted man in the world playing golf and on a green. That's different, right? There is nowhere to go. There's no trees. There's no hiding. He was a sitting duck. Thank God that one Secret Service agent saw that rifle going through the bushes and stopped that assassination attempt. I'm going to give you 20 seconds, which is hard to do here, but I want your thoughts on the Trump-Mamdani meeting that we saw at the Oval Office. That was incredible.
It was incredible. I mean, it was a real love fest. It wasn't exactly what I expected, but I guess it is really to be expected because Donald Trump absolutely loves his hometown. And as he said, the better Mamdani does, the happier he is, the better New York is. Even though I live in New York, I kind of wanted him to play tough with him and to withhold funds, but maybe this is the best way. What Trump said was, I've changed. You change when you come into office. He'll change. And Mamdani, actually standing next to Trump at the Resolute desk, actually nodded at that. So, look, I don't like Mamdani, but he's kept on Jessica Tisch. That's a good sign as NYPD head. And if he's going to keep New York safe and not send us broke, I guess we're no worse off than we have been for a while.
Indeed. And if you watched MSNBC and CNN afterwards, they did not know what to make of this. They so wanted a confrontation so they could say Trump bullied them and everything. And they don't understand that Trump is playing 4D chess at this point. Anyway, Miranda Devine, New York Post, thanks so much for joining us. And I guess we'll be on Life, Liberty, and Levin tonight at 8 p.m. So back-to-back Miranda and Joe. That'll be interesting, to say the least. And again, love you and appreciate it again.
Thanks so much, Joe. See you.
All right, see you soon. She's great, isn't she? And a great reporter. Actually, one that's actually doing journalism. Go figure. This is Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Back with more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. All right, let's bring in a longtime friend, Dr. Mark Siegel. He has a bestseller out right now. It is selling like hotcakes. I mean, this thing is flying off the shelves. The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. Shannon Bream, nice enough to do the forward. Mark, boy, you just keep pumping out these books, but this one I think is your best.
Yeah, well, this one is narrative nonfiction, which means that the stories lead to endings that people learn from, and you as the writer don't necessarily know where you're going to end up when you start the story. And what I'm proud of is that I went and interviewed everybody around the story and corroborated things to make sure it was really correct, or as correct as I could make it. And I think that is something that people want to read. You know, here's the story, and here's what, I was there. And, you know, the more fantastical the story is, the more you have to have people to verify it. And the idea, though, Joe, that somehow we need to retrain people to understand there's a human soul, or that life is precious, or that we should try to continue it, or that it's a gift from God. Any doctor that goes into an anatomy lab or learns human physiology understands that this stuff just doesn't happen without a guiding hand. It's pretty incredible, human life itself.
Well, that's true. And as you know, Mark, and you've spoken to my wife on several occasions, she is an ER doctor. She, unfortunately, in her position, has to witness somebody dying or almost dying and coming back. And the stories that they tell, at first I thought, oh, well, you know, maybe they just go into a dream state, right? And they think they're going to heaven. They see a light. They see a relative. But then it seems like the stories are so consistent in terms of the experience that at this point, Mark, and we talked about this in the Big Weekend show last week, but for our audience here on WABC and Red Apple Media, again, I think that at this point, since the stories are so similar, that there might be something to this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And the stories, that's one manifestation of God, which is out-of-body experience or near-death experience. Another is God coming to you in dreams, and you learn spooky stuff that ends up being verifiable. Ghosts, like one of the chapters in my book where a guy that had died came and visited another veteran right before he killed himself and actually saved him with that visitation. All of that ends up being consistent. You're talking about when somebody comes back into their body, it's always the same thing. Okay, they come from some great height. There's a light. You know, they hear themselves breathing before they experience it. They feel that they're in some vastness, and then it's a more limited reality, and they're changed by it. You know, maybe they're more open to other points of view, like we saw with Senator Fetterman. Maybe they're more humble about it, the way I see with Dr. Robert Montgomery, Chief of Surgery at NYU, in my book. So I agree that verifiability, and your wife has seen this, and your wife's a great doctor, speaks to the truth of the situation. The other point is that miracles accrue. That's why we all have them. It's not always a bolt of lightning from the sky. It's oftentimes a compilation of coincidences. That's a way of understanding miracles from the Old Testament that I believe is true today.
And we're talking to Dr. Mark Siegel. My daughter is a big Bills fan and is going through some issues right now because they lost to the Texans on Thursday night, and I wore a Texans jersey in front of her just to bust her chops. I don't know why I'm bringing this up. No, actually, I do know why I'm bringing this up because Damar Hamlin, I remember watching that game. It was a Monday night game. The Bills were at the Bengals, I believe, and you saw Hamlin. He goes in for a tackle, and I played football, and if you lead with your head, or if you hit somebody a certain way. I remember one time I was playing against this kid who ended up going to the NFL. His name was Fred Strickland. He played for the Lakeland Lancers, and I was on the kickoff team, and at full speed, he was running, I was running, he put his head down, I put my head down, and we collided, and we both kind of like went backwards, both of us, and I felt this sting in my neck, and for a couple of seconds, I couldn't feel my legs, and I think it was just a stinger. That's what it's called, but it scared me. And what happened to Hamlin was that his heart stopped on the field, and it's a miracle that he came back. So you talk about Damar Hamlin in this book too, right?
Yeah, but I don't actually. The miracle that everyone thinks happened is what I try to do in the book is I say, okay, a miracle occurred. What don't we know about this miracle, and what's another way to look at the miracle? And with Damar Hamlin, I found out two key points that no one knows. One is that the reason he survived, first of all, it's a miracle that this even happened to him, because commotio cordis, where you get hit with a sharp object right in the middle of the cardiac cycle, in order to stop the heart suddenly without any underlying structural heart disease, is not only extremely rare, but it doesn't usually happen to someone that old. Usually it's much younger. Usually it's a baseball. Usually it's not a football helmet when you have your full shoulder pads and everything on. So that's really unusual. But the real miracle here is that the sports orthopedist, who is the head of orthopedics at Buffalo Medical School and the team physician for the Bills, had a problem in 2007 with a skater from another team that almost died, and he saved that skater. He got the blade to his neck, to his carotid artery. He barely saved him, and he said, from here on, we're going to rehearse cardiac arrests and emergencies on the field in both my teams from now on every single month. And they said he was crazy. They said, Leslie, why are you rehearsing cardiac arrests for the NFL when there hasn't been a cardiac arrest on the field since 1955? It's because Bisson rehearsed it every month that they went bang into action, got on that field, got that defibrillator, got to Damar. Within a minute, we say time is brain. Time is brain. Within a minute, and they restored his heartbeat, and that's why he was compos mentis and completely recovered. Because of the coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence, right, Joe? Because of that. That's the first miracle. The second was the way he awoke, that he fully awoke, took a few days. It wasn't like the media reported it. Oh, he woke up. Who won the game? You won the game of life. Right, but it took days before he completely recovered his full faculties. And then, and this is the other part of my book, and then he transferred all of that to others. He's out there. He's doing CPR clinics. He's trying to give scholarships to underprivileged kids. When God does a miracle for you, you turn around and do it for others.
Oh, indeed. And Mark Siegel, Dr. Mark Siegel, The Miracles Among Us, how God's grace played a role in healing. And again, this could just be coincidence, but the game after Damar Hamlin suffered that injury, nearly died on the field, just 1 week later, 6 days later, because it was a Monday night game. So that following Sunday, the Bills returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. And you could say, oh, well, just happened. I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. And now Damar Hamlin, look, as a player, I don't know if I would have the courage to come back and play again in such a violent league after going through something like that. But he's back on the Bills, and he's playing, and it's, he thanks God over and over again, and this is what exactly the kind of things that you're going to read about in Mark Siegel's book. Hey, Mark, we only have about 2 minutes, so put that in your TV/radio brain, because you do both, obviously, Dr. Radio and Sirius XM as well. Tell us why you got into medicine. I'll tell you why my wife did. Her dad suffered a heart attack at age 37, and she was there when it happened, and she felt helpless. She was only like 5 or 6 years old, and at that point she said, all right, I don't want to feel that way again, even at that age, and then eventually went to Georgetown, got her medical degree, and now she's an ER doctor. So what made you get into medicine in 60 seconds, if you can?
Yeah, and by the way, before I get to that, I'll make it 50 because I want to add to the point you just made. It's something I call the miracle lane. The reason they returned that kickoff for a touchdown the next game is the whole team was in a miracle lane of prayer and hope, and they were connected to a greater reality. Why I went into medicine is because I wanted to get inside the human body, and I wanted to understand people, and I wanted to know their secrets as a writer, and I wanted to help them. I felt that writing was inside my brain. I was a writer first. I wanted to combine it with getting outside my brain and doing good deeds in the world, and it's a really special feeling.
Well, that's great. And then you've done great things both in television, radio, and still treating patients to this day. You're like me. You got 5 jobs. I don't know where you find the time, but it's a labor of love, I know, in all 3. And Dr. Mark Siegel, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on your best-selling book, The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. I'll see you in a green room soon, my friend.
Great to see you. Great to see you, Joe.
All right, Mark,
As
take
always.
care. This is the Joe Concha, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. It's the Joe Concha, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, have you heard of Arctic frost? Now, I know if you listen to this station that, of course you have. But if you read the New York Times or the Washington Post or CNN.com, there is exactly between those 3 outlets one story on Arctic frost. So I'm on Life, Liberty, and Levin tonight on the Fox News channel, 8 p.m. Eastern time. You're definitely going to want to tune in for that. Miranda Devine, who joined us, obviously, will be on as well. So kind of weird that we did this radio show and we're also on the same TV show. Was not planned, just kind of worked out that way. Well, Arctic frost, I remember I wrote my dad and I said, I'm going to be talking about Arctic frost with Mark Levin. And then he wrote back Arctic frost, ? He hadn't heard of it before because it's not being reported almost everywhere. Fox News, we've talked about it. But overall, it's a thing that isn't a thing, I guess. But listen to what Arctic frost was, okay? This is 2022. And we had a Justice Department under Merrick Garland, an FBI under Chris Wray, and all these subpoenas were sent out about multiple Republican lawmakers asking phone companies like Verizon to hand over all of their records when it comes to where they are, who they're talking to, who they're texting, back and forth. And this is something that obviously, goes over the line, right? You can't be doing that if you're Verizon. Now, you can do it, I guess, if you announce it, that you have some sort of investigation, and here's what we're doing, and here's what we want to find. No, the phone companies were told, do not tell the people whose records you have of. All right, so you got an account with Verizon, and you're Jim Jordan, for example. He wasn't told that all of his records, his location, all of that was being handed over to Democrats. This is stuff right out of the Soviet KGB. Now, here's what we know. Democrats spied on President Trump. They spied on Speaker Johnson. They spied on multiple members of Congress. And moving forward, we're going to find more where this espionage may have occurred. And the most disturbing part is a company like Verizon, they aided and abetted this secretly. Chris Wray, the FBI director at the time, he needs to be hauled in front of Congress now. Merrick Garland, who was once portrayed as a moderate, who Barack Obama wanted on the Supreme Court and then became the Attorney General under Biden, should be hauled in front of Congress. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. And obviously, Jack Smith, the bulldog, who was going to handle all these different cases, they've since been thrown out. He's already agreed to testify. So we need to hear from him as well. Look, Jim Jordan, was is the chair of the House Judiciary Committee. And he wasn't told that his phone records were being subpoenaed, right? And then the judge, to justify not telling him that his records were in the hands of other people as far as who he's talking to and what he knows and where he goes, the judge says, well, he may be a flight risk, therefore you can keep this secret from him. That's what the judge told Verizon. A flight risk? The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. He's on cable news like every night. What's he going to do? Flee? This isn't, some, 2-bit criminal that can fly to Venezuela and hope for, avoiding extradition. So, I mean, the excuses around this are utterly ridiculous. And even Mark Levin told me that 13 of his emails, private emails, were subpoenaed, and he has no idea how it happened. So if you're a conservative media member, there's a good chance that your stuff was taken to without your knowledge. I mean, this stuff is unbelievable. Now, back to the media coverage. All right. Again, outside of Fox News and a couple of other outlets, very few. If you read the New York Times, there is not one story on Arctic frost. There is stories on climate change in the Arctic Circle, I guess. That's what I found, but nothing there. Washington Post, exactly one story. CNN.com, exactly 0.0. And now our wonderful media, they have the hubris of accusing President Trump of weaponizing the justice system against his opponents when they never said that under Biden. And by the way, I don't think it is being weaponized. I think that, look, Letitia James, for example, the Attorney General of New York, they're portraying her as a victim, the media is, in this case against her about mortgage fraud. I'm sorry, did President Trump force her to say that her father was her husband on a mortgage application? No. Did President Trump force, say, I don't know, Letitia James to say that her primary residence is in Virginia, which is something like 300 miles away from New York City, just to get a better deal on her loan for that house? No, he did not. Oh, and something else that really just I am beyond pissed off about, and I'm sure you are too. Democratic lawmakers, they put together a video that implores members of the military to break the chain of command if they deem that a order from the commander-in-chief, in this case, President Trump, is illegal, whatever that means, that they should not carry out that mission. Okay. So President Trump orders, let's see, a strike on the Fordow nuclear facility in Iran. Okay. And then the pilots who flew from Missouri 18 hours straight across the ocean decide halfway through, maybe they got MSNBC on in the cockpit, that, you know what, this is probably illegal what we're doing because we're attacking a sovereign country without the express consent of Congress. So let's turn the planes around and not carry this through because it's illegal. Okay. So that's what Democrats want, I guess, is for the military to rebel against the commander-in-chief and not carry out orders? Well, to quote Colonel Jessup and A Few Good Men, either people follow orders or people die. It's that simple. And it's true. And the fact that they put out this video, let me listen. You got to listen to it because it really is the height of stupidity politically and hubris. This is cut one. Go.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
our Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you. We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Oh, Democrats, we have your back. So when you don't follow orders and break ranks, and when you're court-martialed and sent off to a federal prison for doing so, don't worry. You did it for Democrats in the country. Because, again, they don't ever say what the illegal orders are exactly that I guess our military members should not follow. I can guarantee you, I know plenty of people in the military, and I spoke to them this week, and I said, what do you think about this? They said they're all, I won't use the word, effing nuts. Or effing nuts. I mean, and the fact that then President Trump says that is sedition, that is treason. Now Democrats are going out there and saying, President Trump is calling for us to be killed. They're playing the victim. The victim. No one forced you to put out that ridiculously reckless video. And now they're upset because Trump said that's treason. It is treason. It is. My hair hurts. I swear to God it does. Anyway, let's end it here. with, I love this. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I call Marjorie Timu Greene because she's a cheap knockoff of MAGA, and she's trying to take over this movement by being the Thomas Massey, I guess a blonde Thomas Massey in terms of now she's going to be anti-Trump. And the legacy media now loves her. They mocked her forever, and they should have. Because when you say that Jewish space lasers may have started California wildfires, whatever that means, Jewish space lasers, the most anti-Semitic thing I think you could think of. She thinks that Jews somehow created these lasers that are in space that created wildfires in California so Gavin Newsom can have a railroad, a high-speed railroad. This person I've always said was ridiculous. And out there, you could be like, Joe, you're a rhino. You're going after MAGA. No, I'm not actually. Really not. She's crazy. All right? This is the same person. I mean, again, I can't get my head around the person that makes these sort of comments that said that she thought that Stalin was Jewish. What? What are you talking about? It always goes back to the Jewish thing, by the way, which is profoundly weird. Oh, and that the government can control hurricanes to strike red states before elections. If you believe that, I'm sorry. You're not getting a Christmas card from me. The government can't control the weather. All right. And if you believe that, show me the evidence of the proof. Anyway, Marjorie Taylor Greene is now the darling of the Democrat Party. And here on CNN, they really love her now. Cut 5, go.
Tyler?
Yeah, remarkable interview and just a sea change from what we've seen. In some ways, some of the rhetoric she was saying, Joe Biden, of there's more that unites us than divides us. That is not the sort of rhetoric we are used to hearing from President Trump and the MAGA base.
Oh, she's the next Liz Cheney. Congratulations, Marjorie Timu Greene. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks to my guests. That was Miranda Devine and Mark Siegel. We'll be back next Sunday, 11 a.m. on Red Apple Audio Networks, WABC Radio here in New York. I'm Joe Concha. See you when I see you. Bye-bye.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show.